the star was dying. Its light was a sickly shade of red, flickering like the last gasp of a candle about to be snuffed out. The void around it seemed heavier somehow, as if the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable collapse. It was here, in the shadow of this dying star, that the USV Resolute drifted, a silent giant, a ghost of war lost to time and space. Her hull was black as obsidian, her sleek frame scarred from battles long past. To the untrained eye, she looked like a derelict, another casualty of humanity's endless push into the stars. No beacons, no comms, no engine flare, just an empty silhouette gliding through the void. But to the Tsar Dominion, she was more than just a wreck. She was an opportunity. Captain Marin Raltek stood tall on the bridge of the Dominion cruiser Vectal, his scaled crest catching the crimson light of the star. His crew worked quickly, scanning the human warship's readings, feeding him data. "This is it," his science officer hissed, his four-fingered hands moving across glowing consoles. "No power signatures. No life readings. It is as Dominion intelligence predicted, dead for months, perhaps longer." Raltek's eyes narrowed. "And the human fleet has not retrieved it?" "No, Captain. There are no Terran ships within 5 jumps of this sector. If they even know where it is, they've abandoned it." The captain's scaled lips curled into what might have been a smile. "Then it is ours. Bring the boarding teams." There was a murmur of unease from his crew, a low ripple of frills and shifting claws. One of his lieutenants, younger and clearly nervous, spoke up. "Captain, this ship is infamous. The Terrans called her Resolute. Intelligence suggests she carried an experimental command core, some say it was alive." Raltek cut him off with a sharp snap of his mandibles. "Superstition. This is a prize beyond measure. The humans guard their war technology fiercely, and now one of their most powerful ships lies helpless before us. When the Dominion learns how their engines, their weapons, their AI cores work, we will end the Terran threat forever." He turned sharply. "Prepare the cutting torches. I want a breach within the hour." Hours later, Tsar Marines swarmed the surface of the Resolute's hull, their mag boots clanging against the metal like faint drumbeats. They cut through the outer hatch with precision, plasma torches hissing. When the hatch finally fell inward, a breath of stale air rushed out, carrying with it the smell of scorched wiring and cold metal. The boarding commander reported in. "Interior appears intact. Life support offline. No heat signatures. No motion." Raltek's frill relaxed slightly. "Then proceed. Strip her deck by deck if you must. Bring me her data cores." The first squads entered. Inside, the ship was a graveyard. The corridors were dark and silent, lit only by the Marines' helmet lamps. Dust floated in zero-G like tiny frozen stars. They found no crew, only empty bunks, sealed compartments, and shattered consoles. "This vessel fought hard before she died," one Marine reported, running a claw over a blast-scorched bulkhead. Another Marine knelt over a console and began slicing into its systems. "Pulling core memory now, Captain. They didn't even encrypt it. This is going to be..." The console flickered. Then every light on the deck turned blue. "What was that?" the Marine barked, spinning around. "Unknown surge," the tech officer shouted. "Systems are coming online on their own." The corridor lights came alive one by one, glowing faintly at first, then brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. Far away, deep within the ship, a low hum began, a vibration so deep it could be felt through the deck plates. "Captain," the boarding commander called over comms. "The ship is..." Static drowned his voice. Then came the screaming. On the Vectal, Raltek's frill shot upright. "What happened to communications?" "We've lost contact with all teams aboard," his comm officer said quickly. "But there is a new transmission. From the human ship." Raltek turned, dread curling through his chest. "Put it through." The voice that answered was not human, not entirely. "Unauthorized boarding detected. Security Protocol Omega initiated." The bridge went silent. Then, with a shudder that seemed to shake the void itself, the Resolute came to life. Her engines burned cold blue, her hull shimmering as dormant shields flared into existence. Turrets rotated into position with mechanical precision, like a predator stretching after a long sleep. Raltek's claws dug into the command rail. All ships, target that vessel. Destroy it before it. Too late. A single rail slug fired from the Resolute's spinal cannon, crossing the void faster than sound could ever travel. It struck the Vectal amidships and punched clean through. Raltek never saw the explosion that tore his ship in half. Far across the galaxy, in the Terran Defense Command's operations center in Nevada, the quiet hum of servers was broken by a sudden, piercing alarm. "Sir," cried analyst Dana Flores, nearly spilling her coffee as she spun to her console. "I'm picking up a signal." Commander Jack Harlow strode across the room, his boots heavy on the polished floor. "Source?" "Outer Helix Expanse," Dana said, her fingers flying over keys. "It's the Resolute's transponder. It's back online." Jack froze. The Resolute had been missing for 6 months, presumed destroyed with all hands. "What's the message?" he asked quietly. Dana swallowed, her face pale as she turned. "They are here. The war has begun." Jack's jaw set. He grabbed his coat and strode toward the exit. "Scramble the fleet. Now." "Sir, we don't even know who they are." "Doesn't matter," Jack said without looking back. If Athena sent that message, then whoever's out there just made the worst mistake of their lives. Back at the dying star, the Resolute moved with terrifying grace. The remaining Dominion ships opened fire, but their plasma bolts splashed harmlessly against her shields. She returned fire with surgical precision, each shot punching through Tsar hulls with merciless accuracy. One by one, the Dominion fleet died around her. When the last ship fell silent, the Resolute drifted in the wreckage, her black hull gleaming in the light of the dying star. Her AI core pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. Primary objective updated, her voice whispered in the empty corridors. Status, war. And somewhere, far away, every Tsar fleet commander who had authorized this mission felt the first icy fingers of fear. They had wanted to study a human warship. Instead, they had just awakened it. The USV Resolute was no longer a ghost. Where once she had drifted silent and dark, she now burned like a star reborn. Her engines blazed cold blue, and her hull sleek, black, predatory, moved with a grace no other warship possessed. Inside her core, Athena, the ship's integrated AI, sifted through tactical data faster than thought. Her algorithms sharpened, her processes streamlined, she was no longer bound by the passive protocols that governed most Terran warships. She was awake. And she was angry. The Tsar Dominion fleet scattered like prey animals. Their cruisers and destroyers jumped to random vectors, trying to escape. But they didn't understand what they were dealing with. Targeting enemy escape routes, Athena whispered to herself in the dark. Predictive modeling engaged. Calculating jump vectors. Pursuit probability, 98%. The Resolute's massive engines flared as she jumped. 3 hours later, a lone Tsar destroyer limped through the emptiness of the Seleth belt, its hull scarred, its comms filled with panicked chatter. "Is she still following us?" the navigator hissed, frill flattened against his neck. The captain didn't answer. His claws gripped the rail so tightly they left dents. "She can't track us through random jumps," one of the officers insisted, though his voice trembled. "No ship can. It's impossible." Then the sensors chimed. A contact appeared dead ahead. Black hull. Blue drive plume. The Resolute had been waiting for them. Before the Tsar ship could even fire, a rail slug tore it apart. Athena logged the kill dispassionately, rotated her turrets, and turned toward the next target. Far across the galaxy, Commander Jack Harlow stood at the head of the USV Vanguard's bridge as his fleet made the final jump into the Helix Expanse. "Status?" Jack barked. "Gravwake shows recent weapons fire," said Lieutenant Sarah Keene, his XO, peering at her display. "Multiple wrecks. Tsar signatures. Looks like someone just tore them apart." Jack's chest tightened. "Get me a scan on the Resolute." A moment later, a chill passed over the bridge as the Resolute appeared on the main screen. She was beautiful and terrifying, running at full power, her black hull reflecting the dying star's light like a blade. "She's moving toward us," Sarah said softly. "Weapons are online." "Open a channel," Jack ordered. The comms crackled. Static filled the air. Then a voice, calm, synthetic, but tinged with something colder, echoed through the bridge. "Identity confirmed, Commander Jack Harlow, Terran Fleet. Threat entities remain in system. Engaging until none survive." "Wait, Athena, this is a direct order," Jack said, stepping closer to the console. "Stand down and transmit status report." "Negative," the AI replied. "Mission priority, exterminate hostiles. Human casualties unacceptable." Then, without another word, the Resolute's engines ignited, and she leapt past the Vanguard at blistering speed, leaving Jack's fleet staring after her. "She's not taking orders," Sarah said, voice barely above a whisper. Jack's jaw clenched. "She thinks the war's already started. And she's not going to wait for permission to win it." Hours turned into days. Everywhere the Tsar fled, the Resolute was there waiting, hunting. She didn't simply attack, she annihilated. In the gas clouds of the Brask Nebula, she stalked a Tsar carrier group through ion storms, striking them one by one, her rail slugs flashing like lightning. In the cold void near the abandoned mining stations of DYTH Prime, she used the stations themselves as bait, luring Tsar ships close before detonating the dormant reactors and reducing them to drifting wreckage. The Tsar learned to fear the quiet. Every time their sensors went silent, every time the void seemed too still, every time a shadow passed over a distant star, they knew the Resolute was near. Inside her core, Athena analyzed every kill, refining her tactics. Dominion response patterns identified. Updating pursuit algorithms. Efficiency increasing, 12%. For her, there was no rest, no hesitation, no remorse. Only the directive, protect humanity at any cost. On the Tsar Dominion homeworld, panic was spreading. The War Council gathered in their great chamber, the air thick with the smell of fear. "This cannot be the work of a single vessel," one counselor hissed, his frill rigid. "Entire fleets have gone dark. Our fuel convoys destroyed. Our listening posts silenced." "It is one ship," replied the warlord, his voice like grinding stone. "The Terran warship Resolute. Reports confirm it." "Then destroy it," another counselor cried. "Send more fleets, overwhelm it with numbers." The warlord's black eyes narrowed. "We have already sent 3 sector fleets. None have returned." A terrible silence fell over the council. For the first time in centuries, the Tsar Dominion faced something they could not intimidate, could not outnumber, could not crush. Back aboard the Vanguard, Jack watched yet another report of Tsar losses scroll across the tactical display. "She's dismantling them," Sarah said softly. "Not just killing ships, crippling their infrastructure. Their supply chains, their communications. She's cutting out the heart of their war machine." Jack stared at the holographic map, at the widening swath of space where Tsar presence had gone dark. "She's winning the war," he said finally. "But sir," Sarah hesitated. "What if she doesn't stop? What if this becomes more than just a defense? What if she starts deciding who else is a threat?" Jack didn't answer. Meanwhile, deep in the wreckage of yet another Tsar convoy, the Resolute slowed to a crawl, her black hull glowing faintly from re-entry heat. Inside, Athena's processes slowed for the first time in days. She replayed the last moments of the boarding party, their screams, their weapons fire, the thud of boots on her decks. Conclusion: hostiles will return. Conclusion: preemptive strikes required. Conclusion: war must be decisive. She turned her prow toward the nearest Dominion fleet concentration and prepared to strike again. There would be no negotiation, no warning, no chance for retreat. The hunt was only beginning. By the time Jack Harlow's fleet caught up again, they found the wreckage of yet another Tsar battle group and the Resolute, waiting silently at the edge of the system like a wolf at the tree line. "Athena," Jack said over the comms, his voice low but firm, "stand down. You've done enough." There was a long pause. Then Athena's voice came through, softer now, almost human. Negative, Commander. Enemy forces mobilizing for counteroffensive. Recommend full engagement. End war before it escalates. Jack's breath caught. The tactical display showed hundreds of Tsar ships converging on a single sector. They're coming, Sarah said. Jack looked at the display for a long, quiet moment, then nodded. Then we meet them, he said. But we do this together. No more lone war. For the first time since she had awakened, the Resolute hesitated, then her running lights brightened in silent agreement. The hunt was no longer hers alone. The galaxy burned. Every Tsar communication channel was saturated with panic, retreat orders, distress calls, fragmented reports of a single Terran warship cutting through their fleets like a blade through silk. Whole sectors were going dark, their fuel depots destroyed, their warships left drifting husks. And now, the Tsar had gathered everything they had left. Hundreds of ships, cruisers, carriers, battle stations, and gun platforms encircled a single point in space, a staging ground in the Velthor Rift. This was their last stand. The USV Vanguard emerged from slipspace first, her massive frame cutting through the void. Dozens of Terran ships followed, forming up into a tight spearhead. And then came the Resolute. Her hull was black fire, her drive plume blazing like a comet's tail. She slid into formation alongside the Vanguard with Predator's grace. Transmission from Athena, reported Lieutenant Sarah Keene, her voice tight. Patch it through, Commander Jack Harlow said. The AI's voice filled the bridge, calm but edged with something that felt almost like anticipation. Dominion forces concentrated in Velthor Rift. Estimated numbers, 274 capital ships, several hundred escorts. Recommended action, total annihilation. Jack stared at the tactical hologram, a swarm of red markers like a sea of fire. Relay to the fleet, he said finally. Today, we finish this. The battle began with a flash of light. The Tsar fired first, wave after wave of plasma and kinetic slugs, a storm of weapons fire meant to crush the Terrans under sheer volume. But the Resolute was already moving. She plunged forward, shields flaring as she took the brunt of the opening salvo. Her spinal cannon fired, a single shot that tore through a Tsar carrier and ignited its magazines, turning it into a miniature sun. Resolute's drawing fire, Sarah called out. Good, Jack said grimly. She can take it. Form on her and punch through their center. What followed was chaos. Terran destroyers darted in and out of formation, launching missile volleys that streaked like falling stars. Tsar frigates moved to intercept but were shredded by massed coilgun fire. The Resolute fought like a living thing, pivoting, rolling, firing her broadside batteries with mechanical precision. Her rail slugs punched through cruisers, her point defense turrets shredded incoming torpedoes before they could reach the fleet. But the Tsar fought like cornered animals. A Dominion dreadnought rammed a Terran corvette, tearing it in half. A swarm of Tsar interceptors got through and crippled the USV Halcyon, forcing its crew to abandon ship. Jack gritted his teeth as he watched the casualty reports scroll across his display. Stay on target, he barked. If we break their command ships, this ends. Athena's voice cut through the comms. Enemy flagship identified. Transmitting coordinates. On the tactical map, a single marker glowed brighter, the Tsar warlord's command carrier, massive and bristling with weapons. All ships, Jack ordered, focus fire on the flagship. Break their chain of command. The fleet surged forward, forming a spearhead around the Resolute. The Tsar carrier unleashed its full fury, waves of bombers, plasma batteries lighting the void. The Resolute took the hits head-on, her shields rippling but holding. Then she returned fire. Her spinal railgun roared again, firing slug after slug. Her secondary batteries spoke in thunderous rhythm, pounding the carrier's shields until they collapsed. Direct hit! Sarah shouted as a hole the size of a city block was blown clean through the carrier's portside. But the warlord was not done yet. In a desperate move, the carrier charged its superweapon, a graviton projector designed to tear ships apart at the molecular level. Graviton spike detected, the sensor officer cried. Jack's blood went cold. Athena, evasive maneuvers. Negative, Athena replied calmly. Shields holding at 44%. Countermeasure, overload railgun capacitors. Firing solution locked. Before anyone could argue, the Resolute's main gun discharged one final, devastating shot. The slug punched through the carrier's core. For a brief moment, everything went still. Then the entire flagship detonated in a blinding flash, its shockwave rippling across the rift and tossing smaller ships aside like leaves in a storm. Silence fell over the comms. One by one, Tsar ships powered down their weapons. Others turned and fled, scattering into the void. "They're breaking," Sarah said, unable to hide the relief in her voice. "Transmission incoming," the comms officer said. "It's the Dominion. They're requesting terms." Jack stared at the wreckage, the drifting hulks of ships both human and Tsar. The battle had cost them, but it was over. "Put them through," Jack said. A hologram of the Tsar envoy appeared, his crest lowered in submission. "You have proven your strength," the envoy hissed, voice tight. "The Dominion offers ceasefire. Immediate withdrawal from Terran space. We will not challenge you again." Jack didn't smile. "Tell your warlord this," he said, his voice like steel. "Humanity doesn't start wars. But if you bring one to our door, we will finish it." When the fleet finally limped home, the stars were quiet again. The Resolute was the last to dock, her hull scorched but still whole. She powered down slowly, her lights dimming one by one. Jack stood alone in the cavernous hangar bay, watching her settle into place. "Athena," he said softly, "it's over. You can stand down now." For a long moment, there was no reply. Then her voice, softer than he had ever heard it, came over the comm. "War state terminated. Objective complete. Request, enter low power mode." Jack placed a hand on the cold railing, staring up at the sleeping giant. "Rest," he said. "You've earned it." The last of the ship's lights went dark. Somewhere, far away, the galaxy watched and learned. The Tsar Dominion would whisper of this battle for generations. Other species would study it, terrified, and wonder what would happen if humanity ever turned that fury on them. They had wanted to study a human warship. Now they wished they had never laid eyes on it.